So this is going to be a bit of a different one. I put this video together without really knowing why I was putting the video together to begin with. I kept on thinking about the story and I was like, I'm gonna make a video about this. And it's like, why would I make a video about this? And it's like, I have no idea, but here I go. So that's what I did. And once I'd made the video, I thought about it afterwards and it was like, there's some things that I could actually, some points that could be made here. So it might not be a complete waste of time. Also, this is just my idea of beautiful weather. It's been really rainy and I just absolutely love the rain and the trees. For those of you who've watched my video on how I didn't want to go out and live in the middle of the prairie with an old man, yeah, I very much prefer trees. So what did I do when I grew up? I went and got myself a place with a lot of trees. So I got a story I kind of just wanted to share with you guys. It's been on my mind today. I've been thinking about it and it was like, you know what? I should tell this story. It's just a story, right? Every once in a while I think about it. Every once in a while I remember it. And it's kind of weird how people are. And I think it's a story about how I just don't understand people. And so here's my story. 18, I graduated from high school and I got a job and it was, just entry level. I was working in a group home for the mentally disabled and I was going to college because, college was a way out. That was the whole point. That was the only reason that I wanted to go to college, was a way out. And everybody told me that I should, so it was like, okay, go to college, have a way out, right? And I ended up going to the local college in my hometown, and I wasn't thrilled about that. I was really hoping that I'd be able to, go to a college somewhere else, because that would be a way out. Leaving that environment would get me somewhere else. But my parents, informed me probably, I can't remember if it was junior or senior year of high school, oh yeah, we can't afford to send you off to a nice college, so you're just gonna have to, you're gonna have to make do on your own, get plenty of scholarships. I had a horrible GPA, so I didn't even try for scholarships. I didn't try for, there are grants available to people who are struggling financially that I probably would have been eligible for, and everybody kept on asking me about it, and it was like, what's the point? What's the point? Why bother? And so I got into the local college. I had a horrible GPA, but I got in. And then when I started talking to the people in the gifted and talented program, they looked at my test scores and they entered me into the gifted and talented program, even though I had the worst possible GPA. And so I spent my first year of college and I was no good at it. I just wasn't good at it. I saw college as a means to an end. All I have to do is jump through this hoop and I can get out of my situation. I can get out of my hometown. I can get out of this environment. I can go somewhere where I have better prospects and I can start building a life for myself. And so it was always about, which hoop do I have to jump through to get out? And so I wasn't honestly taking college as seriously as I probably should have, because I wasn't looking at it as, wow, this is a wonderful educational opportunity for me. It was how do I get out? And right away, people started picking up on that, and I got a lot of, well, college isn't for everybody kinds of talks, which I assumed at the time, because of the way my parents had always talked about it and the way I'd been raised, just meant you're not smart enough for college, so don't even try, which honestly just made me mad. My parents pretty much told me when I graduated from high school that I couldn't move out of the house, even though I wanted to move out of the house. They were like, well, you can't afford to pay for college and pay for an apartment at the same time, so you have to stay at the house and then go to college. So I was stuck in my parents' house, even though I didn't want to be there, and I was going to college full-time, and of course I wanted to get out. It was all about getting through that hoop. Just jump through the hoop, get out. And so I loaded on full coursework plus as many additional classes as they would let me take. And I also ended up taking some master's level classes just because they looked interesting and nobody stopped me. And so I probably should have had better, you're supposed to have I forget what it's called, some sort of guidance counselor to talk you through make out plans for how to sign up for your classes. And that didn't work out so well. I ended up talking to somebody, but they didn't really seem to care what I did. So it was okay, sure, I'm just gonna take this master's level English course because it looks like fun. So there we go. And so I kind of was working on my generals, but I was kind of just sort of all over the place. And I was taking like a lot of courses, like as many courses as I could squeeze in. And then on top of that, I was also working night shifts at this group home for the mentally disabled. And pretty quickly I ran into trouble because I wasn't an organized person. I wasn't a good student. I wasn't doing well. And on top of that, at my job at the group home for the mentally disabled, sheltered little churchy me had a coworker who decided that he deserved to have sex with me and would not leave the issue alone. And I had no idea how to handle it. Like, I just did not know what to do about that. Like, I didn't have any friends. I didn't have any support network. I didn't have anybody at the college that I could hang out with. I didn't get to stay in the dorms in the college with the other students. And so, like, I was stuck at home most of the time. And I didn't have good social skills because I had just gone through high school. And if you heard any of my stories about going through high school, it was like, it was sort of hellish. And so I was not an okay, functioning, healthy person when I got out. I was alive, which is very good. Okay, that's kind of how I want you to think about high school. It's like, okay, she survived. Good. That's good. That's good. So I was probably a little bit PTSD-ish around the edges, just to kind of add a little flavor to everything else that was going on at that point in my life. And so I'm going to work all alone in this building with these mentally disabled people and making sure that they're okay through the night. Like, somebody has to watch out for them. And I've got this creepy coworker who's not even supposed to be there, who keeps on hanging out all night long trying to convince me that I should have sex with him, because one of the things nobody warned me about, the moment you turn 18, all the men are just like, oh my God, she's legal now. So I had like 60-year-old men telling me, like, shortly after my 19th birthday, that they wanted to have sex with me and I should have sex with them. And I was like, I'm a virgin. Even better. You've never done it before. Oh, I totally want this. It's like, dude, can you leave me the fuck alone? Like, you're making me really uncomfortable. But anyway, like, that's what I was dealing with at work. I had this creepy guy. He was morbidly obese, just to add an extra little bit of fun to that. This morbidly obese man with these weird, like, moles all over his body kept on trying to get me to have sex with him, and he really wouldn't take no for an answer. Like, he wouldn't take a hint. And so finally I got creeped out and weirded out enough that I quit my job, because it was like, you know what, I don't know how to handle this. And I need to get out of this situation because I don't know what else to do. I was really stressed out. Quit my job, informed my bosses that was the reason I was quitting my job. Like, this guy won't leave me alone and it's creeping me out and I don't know what to do about it. They blamed me because that particular company had a very strong policy of, when anything goes wrong, blame the underlings. And so it was obviously my fault that this guy was harassing me at work. And so then I was just going to college full time. My parents have all these ideas about the sort of person that I am, which don't necessarily align very well with my ideas about the sort of person that I am. And so throughout the years, we've had like a lot of conflict because they talk to me like I'm one person. Meanwhile, I'm off living my life as a completely different person. There's not a lot of similarities between these two people, so it causes some problems. It's gotten better as the years have gone by. Like, once I was married and I had like 3 kids and like a house, yeah, I became an adult. Kind of weird how that works, and I think it finally clicked in place for them at that point. It's like, oh my God, she has kids. Oh my God, she's married. Oh my God, she has a house. It's like, yeah, I'm not 13 anymore. But this took years. Like, I was in my 30s before we finally reached that point. Up until that point, like, I remember there were times when I was like 28, and even to this day we still have arguments, but like, they really thought that I was a very different person than I think that I am personally. So when I quit my first job, they had always told me, you need to have another job lined up. That's the rule. You have to have another job lined up, which is very good advice, but I was really creeped out and I didn't feel safe at work. And so I quit my job because I didn't know what else to do. And they were so mad at me. At about this point, it was also starting to dawn on me that I had no dating prospects at all. Anyone young and attractive typically left my hometown within a few months of graduating high school. I had been left behind, with a dating pool of 60-year-old men and morbidly obese, mole-covered, creepy co-workers, which was a rocky start when I had obediently waited until I was 18 to start dating. So I quit my job, I shaved my head, I was sleeping in my closet because I had like moved all of my bedding into my closet, and so I would sleep there at night. And so I was like hiding out in the closet in my bedroom at my parents' house because I didn't have any real, like, I didn't have an apartment on my own. I couldn't get out. And they looked at it, was like, okay, you're just being lazy now. You need to find a new job. And I was like, I think I just need a little time. Like, time would be good because I'm kind of a wreck. And I remember telling my husband about this, and he's like, you really couldn't handle that. That's not a very good sign. I was like, I know, I was a little bit snowflakey, but I did sort of still have the PTSD from high school. So there was that. And then everything else that happened just kind of happened on top of that. There was a certain degree of, you know, just piling on of things after a while. And so eventually, at that point in my life, it was really easy to get overwhelmed because there was so much that was already happening. So, I mean, I can't say I handled it well at all, but I didn't know what else to do, and I didn't have anyone to go to for advice. Like, I couldn't go to my parents. Like, they were not people that I could go to for advice. And so, and I didn't have any friends, so it was literally just me on my own, like, how do I make this work? And it's like, okay, well, quit your job, you know, run away. So, like, and also I had no social experience with men at all. I had no social experience. I really, really, really understood how to stay alive in a life-threatening emergency, but when it came to social, day-to-day, ordinary shit, I was painfully bad, like cringe-worthy bad. And so, anyway, eventually I got my shit together and I got a new job at this other company. It was a nursing home. And it wasn't a great place to work. They made me do a lot of hours for free, which is illegal, but they kept having me come in and work for free. And then they would scold me for not working fast enough for free. I wouldn't say it was a great place to work, you know, in case you hadn't guessed from the whole working for free part. It was not the best working environment, but it was a job. And so I had a job and I was holding down a job, which is good. And I was going to college, even though I wasn't doing really well in college at all, but I was trying to get my generals out of the way, plus taking all these master's levels courses. And, you know, I was trying really hard to just jump through the hoop. Just jump through the hoop. Eventually, you're going to get out of this place. Eventually, you're going to get free. Eventually, you're going to go somewhere where you can build a life for yourself and maybe have, you know, a better life. That was all I wanted. I just wanted a better life. And so, you know, I'm in this shitty situation. And then when I was 19, so second year of college, my parents had already seen how poorly I did during my first year of college and informed me that they were not going to pay for any more of my college after that. Like, they looked at it, was like, we're not going to continue investing in you and your very poor collegiate performance, which is fair. I wasn't too upset about that. Like, I was a little disappointed in myself because it was like, why can't I just get my shit together? Like, there was a lot of why can't I get my shit together? But that had been a lifelong thing too. Like, from the time I was in elementary school, I remember wondering why I couldn't get my shit together and what was wrong with me and why can't I just be a good kid? And so, like, this was disappointing, but it wasn't unfamiliar. It was just, you know, the usual. So I was paying for college with my own money, which was fine. It was like, you know what, that's cool. I'm working plus going to college, and I don't have anything to spend my money on because I never buy things for myself, and I live at my parents' house, so food and board are taken care of. So it's not like I spend money on anything. It's just building up in the bank, and I really don't give a shit about it, right? So I just threw it at college. It's like, okay, here, you know, there's my classes. They're all paid for, whatever. And that was back, I mean, I'm 37 years old right now, so that was a good long chunk of time ago. You could do that. These days, I don't know how anyone pays for college. I guess they just get into mountains and mountains of debt. And people were talking about mountains of debt back then, but again, my parents had me stuck at the house and told me that I couldn't move out because, like, debt and, you know, money and financial issues. So, you know, you just stay right where you are and go through college, and then you'll be able to afford a wonderful life. And so I was like, okay, I keep hoping this good life is gonna come, because everything's been pretty damn shitty so far. So eventually I'm really hoping that my life will just, improve, because it's pretty bad. But I was 19, second year of college, and my mom got sick. One morning she just kind of, lost the ability to walk or see particularly well, or really think clearly, or speak coherently, or anything. She just sort of, it was like she developed a really serious loose wire in her brain. And we took her into the ER, and turns out that's exactly what had happened. She had a multiple sclerosis flare-up, and she had exactly that. It was some loose wires. And so they put her on a regimen of steroids, and they were like, okay, these are probably going to help sort of level out the severity of this attack, and so we're just going to try and give this to her, and, maybe she'll get better. And so she couldn't walk. Her eyes were pointing in different directions. Like, her eyes were literally pointing in different directions. It was a little bit unnerving to see. She couldn't take care of herself. She was speaking in very, very garbled and incoherent words. And basically they were like, okay, here you go. Here's your mom. And they sent her home with us and said, you need to bring her back every single day for a steroidal injection to hopefully cause this condition to level out. My mom and my dad ran a business together, and without my mom to help run the business, my dad had to do all of his work and all of her work. My brother was in high school, and between the two of us, like the way my family was kind of set up, education was the most important thing. Like, education was king. And I had done really, really, really shitty throughout my entire educational career, and my brother had always done really, really well. So we always kind of looked at it as, well, my brother's going to, do something with his life. And me, no one really knows what to make of me, but, my brother, at least, he has a really good future ahead of him. And so my brother was in high school. I looked at it, I was like, okay, he's got a bright future. I really don't. Like, I can't stop fucking up at every single thing I do. And so, between my dad having to take care of the family and my brother, possibly having a good future, I looked at it and thought, okay, I'm going to take care of mom. Like, who else is there? There's no one else. We don't have a support network. My parents are really, really quiet, kind of hermit-like people. They don't have a lot of friends. They don't have anyone they can rely on. And so, like, there wasn't anybody that we could call for help. And I just looked at it. I told everybody, like, I'm gonna take her in for these steroidal injections. No problem. They were like, well, what about college? Because education is the only thing that really matters. I was like, don't worry about college. I got it. It's covered. At that point, of course, I was paying for my own college, because my parents had already informed me that they weren't going to pay for my college anymore. So I looked at it, was like, if I blow this, it's my own money. And nobody really has a say what I do with my money, right? I'm an adult. I can fuck up my own money if I want to, right? I paid for it in cash. If I blow this, it's basically like taking a campfire and grabbing several $1,000s worth of cash and just chucking it in the campfire. Like, okay, if I want to do that with my money, who's going to stop me? So cool, whatever. It's not like I'm hurting the family's finances. So I told them I had it under control. Don't worry about me in college. I got this. Every day I would skip classes, and I would take mom to the ER to get these steroidal injections, because the only place they really had to do these injections was the ER. So we would go in, we'd sit in the ER waiting room until they called our name, and then we'd go into the back where they'd set her up on a cot, and they'd give her this injection of steroids, which would take an hour to filter into her system, and then we could leave again. They didn't have any other way to do it, so we were there minimum the hour that it took to give her the steroids, but usually, a lot longer than that. And so I would just miss class after class after class. I'd look at the clock and be like, well, there goes intro to psych. Okay, cool, whatever. There goes geology. Okay, well, all right, whatever. And then, eventually it would be all done and I'd take her home and, make sure she was comfortable and everything. And then I would go to work. I had to help her because she couldn't take care of herself. And so, I just skipped classes for an entire semester. And it was a little bit stressful because, mom was always one of those really, feminist, independent, strong woman, can do anything a man can do kinds of women. And so she really wouldn't accept help very well. And she also had this dynamic with me where she was like, well, I'm the parent, you're the child, you have to do what I say all the time. Doesn't matter that I'm a 19-year-old woman, you're still the child, I'm still the parent, you do what I say. And so it was really hard to take care of her when I'm like, okay, Mom, I just need you to sit in the wheelchair and let me push you. I'm helping. And she'd be pushing her feet up against something, some obstacle. And it's like, Mom, you need to stop and just let me push the wheelchair because you are stopping me from moving the wheelchair forward. And we are wasting time in the parking lot outside the ER because I'm trying to push the wheelchair and you're not letting me because you're helping. You need to stop. And she wouldn't take that very well. And so you had to kind of dance on eggshells when you talked to her because, of course, she was the adult. There was a clear power dynamic. God forbid I, not follow that. And it's like, okay, I'm trying really hard to help you. But if you would just fucking let me help you, that would be fantastic. So it was hard. She had a lot of damage to her brain. Luckily, I think a lot of it went down with the use of the steroids, but there was a while there where she had no sense of time. She had no sense of how time worked at all. None. And so everything in Mom's mind, it was like, oh yeah, we totally have time for this. And so I remember her being like, oh, we can drive over here and do this, right? And I was like, Mom, I have to get you into the car, which takes about half an hour. Then I have to drive you to that place, which takes about 10 to 15 minutes. Then we have to actually do the thing, which takes an hour, maybe an hour and a half. Then I have to get you back in the car, which can take a lot of time. Then I have to drive us back, which takes another 15 minutes. You're asking me to do something that we can't do in a 15-minute window. We don't have that time. And I could tell her this, but again, she's the adult. She says what happens, and I'm supposed to be the kid and do what I'm told. And it was a fucking nightmare. And so that was how things went for most of the rest of the semester. The steroids gave her mood swings, which they warned us about. And so I remember one day I had just gotten her home. I think it was from a steroidal injection. I think we had just gotten back from the ER. And I tried to set her up in the house so that I could go to work because I was trying to not get fired from my job for missing work all the time. So I figured, okay, if I blow out a semester, it's my money anyway. If I lose my job and get fired because I'm not showing up for work, that's going to affect me more in the long term than just failing an entire semester. I suck at college already. It's not going to make a difference, right? And so, I got her home. I tried to get her all situated and comfortable so that I could go to work on time. And she didn't understand. My parents really, neither one of them really had a clear understanding of, I'm an adult with a job. I am expected to show up to work at a certain time. And so when I say I have to go to work, it means that I actually am expected to arrive at work at a certain time, and I can't fail to do that, especially consistently. So I know that you think that I should have time to do this, or I should have time to do that, or I should have time to stop and do this other thing for you, but I do actually need to show up to work on time. And so I'm going to go do that. They would get so mad at me. It's like, well, you need to go do this. It's like, do you not understand the whole point of me being at work when I'm supposed to be clocked in? I'm expected to be clocked in at a certain time. And let's remember, it wasn't the most forgiving workplace. They expected me to work for free. So I got Mom situated. I was going to go to work. I turn around. I start walking out the door. And Mom's like, did you remember the spaghetti? And I'm just kind of sitting there spaghetti? We've talked about multiple things throughout the day, but spaghetti? And so I kind of turned around and I looked at her. I was like, what spaghetti? And she started shrieking at me at the top of her lungs. Again, Steroids, they warned us, would give her a lot of mood swings. She is screaming at me at the very top of her lungs about spaghetti. I couldn't even make out what she was saying because she was screaming so loud. And I'm sitting there like, what the hell? Like, okay, calm down. We'll get you spaghetti or something. Like, just calm down. And I'm sitting there, again, going over the entire day, the entire week. No one has said a single word to me all week about anything having to do with spaghetti, so I have no idea what she's on about. And I'm like, okay, just let's calm down. I'll go get your spaghetti. Any minute, my dad and my brother are going to arrive at the house, and I need to go to work, or I'm going to get fired. And it's like, okay, I'm just it's okay. We'll deal with this. And I turn around, and I walk out the door, and I close the door behind me, and I lock it. And I remember standing there, and I just clenched my fists like this and screamed at the top of my lungs because it had been weeks and weeks and weeks of that. And I was just so done. I was so over it. Like, it was just, I lived in that house. I lived with that shit day in, day out. And I was just, I'd had it. I'd had enough. And I screamed. And then I thought, okay, time to get in the car. I turned. And my dad and my brother were standing right there staring at me like I was, like I'd grown a second head or something. And I look at them and they look at me, and my dad is like, you can't be acting like that, because what if the neighbors hear you, and what are the neighbors going to think? And I'm like, oh yeah, God forbid the neighbors have any thoughts or feelings about all the shit that's going down right now. Oh, that would be terrible. We can't disturb the neighbors now, can we? And so, again, it didn't go down so well. But eventually I, got to work and went through my shift and kept going with my life. That was how my 19th year of life just sort of went. Like, it was sort of a disaster. Eventually we did get Mom stabilized enough that she was able to speak coherently, which was good. And she eventually got to the point where she could walk again. That was really good. Her eyes started pointing in the same direction so she could actually see without, like, she had a lot of disorientation, and because her eyes were pointing in different directions, so she would see this weird double vision, and then she'd get nauseous and vomit all over herself. That wasn't so fun. So that eventually cleared up. That was really good. And I mean, it was multiple sclerosis, so it was just a really bad flare-up. And eventually the treatment started working, and she started becoming more and more normal. The semester ended, and I looked at it and was like, okay, I guess I just fucked up for a whole semester. This isn't going to be good for my GPA, but what are you going to do? I didn't show up for the whole semester. And I was talking with someone about it, like one of the professors or something. I can't remember. Maybe it was my advisor who really didn't give a crap what I did, but I was like, hey, yeah, just so you know, I totally just did not show up for school this whole semester. I didn't even say my mom got sick. I was like, I had some personal things happen at home that were just a little messed up, and I couldn't come in. And she was like, oh, well, we have a form for that. Like, if you get everyone to sign off on the form, we can just nullify this whole semester. And I looked at it, I was like, wow, that would be cool, because that would be kind of cool, I won't have this on my record, so maybe my GPA won't be abysmal for the rest of my college career. That would be really awesome. And so I had to get every professor to sign it, so I went around, and I'm getting all my professors to sign it. Hey, I had some personal stuff show up in my life. I wasn't able to come into class this semester. If you could sign this, that would be really cool. And all of them were pretty chill about it. It was like, okay, they just signed the paper, right? Until I got to the Psych 101 professor. And I remember I walked into her office, and I sat down, and I handed her the paper. I was like, hey, I'm really sorry I didn't show up at all this semester. I had some personal things going on in my life, and I just wasn't able to make it. If you could sign this paper so I could, just have all my classes nullified. And she sits there and she's like, so, what exactly happened? And I hadn't talked to anybody because I didn't have any friends. I couldn't exactly open up to my family. I hadn't said boo peep to anyone. Like, I was going to work, and the people at work had, like, no idea that anything was going on with me at all. And, I hadn't said anything to anyone. I had not formulated anything that had happened into words at all. And so I'm sitting there and I'm looking at her, and it's like, wait a minute, you mean I've got to explain to you what happened? Like, I don't know how to do that. Like, I'm not in a place where I can do that. And so I was like, okay, all right, I gotta figure out how to get this into words so I can explain it to this woman so she can sign this fucking paper so that I can leave. Okay. And so I start trying to talk to her and explain to her what happened. And I'm trying to figure out a way to put this whole giant mess of I spent the entire semester, instead of going to class, taking my very obnoxious, cranky, uncooperative mother to an ER so that she could have steroidal injections because her eyes were pointing in different directions. Words. Gotta put this into words, right? I don't really know how to say this, but my mom, really sick, and there was no one else to take care of her, so I had to do it kind of by myself. And she was screaming at me, and she was like trying to order me around, except she kept telling me to do things that weren't like physically possible because like time and space are realities, and I couldn't exactly explain to her that they weren't going to happen the way she wanted them to happen. And I got treated like shit the whole time, and I was trying very hard just to make things work and make ends meet. And then when I wasn't taking care of my mom, I was going to work, and how do I say this? How do I say this? Like, how do I put this into words? Like, I don't know what to say. Everybody else just kind of accepted, hey, I had some personal stuff going on in my life. It was pretty messed up, and so I couldn't get into college. Like, I couldn't get into class. I'm really sorry. This lady, she wants an explanation. What the fuck do I say? And so I started talking. I think I got about to the point where my mom got really sick, and I just broke down crying because it was like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to say what I don't have anything. I don't have words for this. This whole thing was just a giant disaster. It was really stressful, and I'm already at my wit's end. I'm already pushed well beyond the limits of anything that would be reasonable, and I'm a 19-year-old kid. I've been taking care of other people a hell of a lot more than I've been taking care of myself, and I've been letting my own life go to shit, and my life was already shit. So like, I didn't know what to say, and I start crying, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I haven't said anything about this to anyone, I'm really sorry. I'm wiping my eyes. And she looks at me, and she leans into her desk, and she's like, just so you know, I can't be your therapist. And it was kind of perfect, because there was that moment where I switched from overwhelmed, sad, confused, lost, broken, straight over to fucking pissed as hell. And I just looked her in the eye, and I swear to God, it is a testament to my willpower that I did not jump across her desk in that moment, grab her by the throat, and strangle her. And I stared her right in the eye, and I was like, just sign the paper. And she did, and I left, and that was it. And it's probably a really good thing that I never saw that bitch again, because how fucking dare you? Like, nobody else had this problem. Everybody else, it was just like, hey, tough personal shit, could you please sign the paper? And everybody else just kind of went with it. This lady, no, she wanted an explanation. I tried to give her an explanation, and then all of a sudden she's like, well, I can't be your therapist. It's like, fuck you, bitch. Fuck you. I ended up, like, quitting college after that semester. I just looked at it, was like, you know what, screw this. I don't want any of this for myself. The only reason I'm doing all this is so that I can get out of here, and it's not working, and I'm not making any real progress toward any of my own goals. Like, nothing good is coming out of this. This is just what other people want for me and what other people tell me I need to do. So, I'm done. I've got a job. It's not great, obviously, but it's a job, so I can clearly hold down a job. And I'm just gonna find my own way. Screw this whole college thing. It's just not working. And so I dropped out of college after that semester. I moved in with my first roommate. My parents had a complete, like, mind-blowing kind of moment. Like, wait a minute. How are you going to pay for college? It's like, oh, it's simple. I'm not. Well, how are you going to get a good career? Did you think that college was going to give me a good career? I was a fucking English major. It was a joke. Everybody knew it was a joke. So, like, yeah, I mean, what do you think? What do you think was going to come out of that? Nothing. Like, I already write novels, so I don't need college to teach me how to write novels. and I'm not actually going to benefit from having a degree. Why am I doing this? You know, obviously, I've told this story many times. Later on, as soon as I was legally able, I became an exotic dancer. I was really, really pissed off that I couldn't become an exotic dancer at the age of 18 plus, because in most states that's legal, but in my area it wasn't legal, and it was like, you know, I could have really used that opportunity then. I could have really, really benefited from that, but no. We gotta wait till you're 21, because, you know, we're protecting you from yourself. Because nothing fucked up is gonna happen to you in your life except what you do to yourself. Which I suppose is true. I could have told my parents to go fuck themselves and left them to their own devices while I muddled my way through a pointless college degree, but, well. Yeah, okay, all right, fine, whatever. So yeah, that's kind of that. Oh, you know, I want you to know that I can't be your therapist. It's like, I've never wanted to hit someone so hard in my life. And so I guess the reason I'm telling this story is I was thinking about it because I got this random message a while back on YouTube, like in the comments section. It was some guy saying, you know, stop trying to use YouTube for therapy and go get a real therapist or something like that. Like, go get the help you need or something. And I'm like, dude, that's not what I'm here for. That's not what I'm here for. I'm here for kind of entertainment value, really. Like, hopefully I entertain you guys, but I'm taking some entertainment value from this as well. This is a fun and interesting hobby, and so I've been doing it for, you know, years. Obviously, I had some problems for a couple years a little while ago. I've talked about those. The reason I've talked about those is because I didn't want to go like batshit insane on everybody and then not explain to you, hey, this is how that mess came about and what happened there, because I feel like I kind of owe it to you guys after watching me just completely slowly implode on myself over the course of multiple years. You ought to kind of know at least what was going on there. But I do periodically have people who assume that I'm basically just talking to you guys as some form of therapy. And I mean, I think there is something therapeutic about putting words out into the world, because you have to organize your thoughts into words. I've been fiddling with my ring. You have to organize your thoughts into words, and when you do that, it is very beneficial. But that's anytime you talk with anybody about anything that's not superficial. And quite honestly, the thing I hate about talking to people is all the superficial shit. All the small talk, all the how's the weather? It's like, dude, I'm bored out of my mind. We already talked about the weather last time. It's weather. Like, can we stop wasting time on this shit? Like, life is short. Let's get to something interesting. That's kind of what this YouTube channel is. It's like, life is short. Let's talk about something fun. A few guys are like, oh, well, you know, I know you use YouTube as therapy. It's like, no, dude, I use YouTube as entertainment. But, you know, you do you. You think whatever you're going to think. And I'm just going to keep making videos. For example, this story. That was just such an aggravating time in my life. Like, there was so much going wrong, and I mean, I got out of it, which is great, but I look back at it and it's like, whew, that was a mess, wasn't it? You know, I can tell that story and it's like, yeah, things were a little messed up back in the day, you know? This is the story of how college didn't work out for me. And so in the process of editing this video, the thought that kept coming to mind for me is, how many college students, because you keep seeing all these videos online of these very snowflakey college students just totally losing their shit, how many of those occasions are people who just never got taught that it's not polite to have temper tantrums in public? And how many of them are situations where someone has been pushed absolutely to the very limits by stressful events in their lives that we have no idea about? Because nobody had any idea that I had PTSD. Nobody had any idea that I had nearly died just a couple years ago. Nobody had any idea that my parents were sick. Everyone who looked at me just assumed that I was some sort of weird snowflake child who just couldn't handle life. I was at life on hard mode, and I spent most of my life on hard mode. How many of these people we see melting down are just, you know, finally breaking after being on hard mode for a really long time?
And so, I hope you are all in good health, and I'll talk to you guys later.